Nell.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Good.
Let's wait a moment or two for other folks to join.
Yep.
But I love your backgrounds. You've got uh your sign there.
Yeah, I've tried to
Also,
keep
these
as many
bags.
signs.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
that
That's great.
the
Yeah.
bags were my mother-in-law's jeans,
Oh, that's so sweet.
and they now hold things that are supposed to be organized, but there's still a mess somehow.
Yeah, feel that. I'm very much a put things into small containers as though that's organization. And it's
Yeah,
like, is that actually organized when they're just like shoved into a small container?
and then you have to
Um,
remember which small container you put the thing in, otherwise you end up getting all the small containers out to go through them.
exactly. Exactly. I do that so often, especially very often. Like I put it in one of these tins or
Yeah.
boxes or bags somewhere. Oh, I'm so glad we've got some folks joining us, and I'm so glad to be able to chat with you. This is kind of our first SewQueer blog chat that is not like the editorial team. So, welcome, and thank you for
Thank
being our
you.
first.
Thank you for having me as your first.
Yeah, lovely. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Would you
Okay.
like to introduce yourself?
Yep, so I'm Nell. My pronouns are she, they. I live in the south of England where it was sunny, but it's now really miserable because that's what our weather's like. Um, I'm a mum of two human children and three furry children that are dogs. And I'm studying an undergraduate degree at Brighton University in philosophy, politics, and ethics part time.
Hmm, love it. Love it. Um, and you wrote a wonderful post for our blog about needlework and activism and also ADHD, which interests me as somebody who also has it. Um, and would you be up for kind of recapping a little bit of how you came to needlework and like why does it speak to you as a particular craft?
Yeah, first of all, I've just noticed that my daughter has said hello to
Oh,
me, so I should probably say hello back. Um,
that's so cute.
um, I spent my summers between staying with my cousins or my cousins staying with me, and both my aunt and my mum are incredibly creative people. So they would always buy us like needlework kits that we could do, so like Forever Friends cross stitch and long stitch and embroidery and things. And then I kind of stopped doing it because when you have small children, it's not good to have needles and thread lying about, especially when you don't realize it, but you've got ADHD and you're not very tidy. Um, so I got out of the habit of it. But then during lockdown, I realized I had a bit of time on my hands and noticed that a friend of mine had been doing some embroidery and thought, oh, I wonder if I could do that. And raided my mum's craft stash and found scraps of fabric that I had and threads that she had and started having a go. Um, and then I found Twin Maid, who I shared a post on my Instagram takeover, um, giving away the pattern for the Be More Bernie cross stitch pattern, which I loved. Um, and I realized that when I was cross stitching, I wasn't on my phone and I was a lot more present for my family. And I actually knew what was going on in the film and I didn't have to keep asking questions and things, and realized that maybe this was a good outlet of creativity as well as keeping me kind of more present with what was happening around me at the same time.
Mhm. I so feel that like really speaks to me as well. um, in terms of kind of reapproaching these different needlework arts as an adult versus when you did it as a kid, are there things that like feel new and different to you? Did it feel immediately familiar when you dove back into it?
The cross stitch, the actual doing the cross stitch, I remembered how to do that straight away. But obviously, I wasn't cross stitching the same sort of things as I am now when I was a child and a teenager. So my cross stitch now is a lot more politically motivated. Um, so I've definitely changed what I'm stitching. Um, and now it's a case of trying to find somewhere to put things so it doesn't just feel like when you walk into my house, it's a massive assault of political messages.
Nothing wrong with that. What do you do with them after you make them? Are you like framing things? Do you like to display them? Do they go in where what happens with all
So
of
this
them?
one that was part of, I was going to be back to the front, but that one is
Mhm.
on a bookcase in my front room, as is the one that's taken from the poem The Hill from
Mhm.
Biden's inauguration. That's up on a shelf. I'm considering potentially trying to do some sort of raffle slash auction to try and raise some money for queer charities once I've got a few more um,
Mhm.
completed. But I've also been using them to make them as gifts. Um, the one I stitched that's on the fur fabric that I shared in my Instagram takeover, the artwork was done by my friend Auntie Flick, and it was her birthday, so that was her gift.
Mhm.
So it's quite nice being able to find ways to personalize things for people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so nice to have people in your life who appreciate the handmade gifts too.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think people get a choice really; they just kind of get handed it.
I mean, that's I feel that. I feel that. Um, in terms of, I think that kind of takes me into something that I liked about your post and that I like in thinking about like craft and handwork as activism, which is like the way it connects us to other people. I just kind of want to open that up and like, what are your feelings about like craft as activism or what draws you to like needlework in that way?
Um, I think it's because it's a lot quicker to finish a project when it's needlework. So I made a banner recently for there's a movement at the moment that I don't know if people would have heard about if they're not in the UK called Kill the Bill. There's going to be a new police crime sentencing and courts bill, which is going to make protest illegal. It will also make camping in non-authorized spots illegal, which will really affect the traveller community. It means that you would get 10 years in prison for throwing a statue into a river, which is less time in prison than you would get for raping a woman. So there are lots of people who are understandably upset by this bill that's going to pass. So I made a banner, but it took me a long time and I had to really stay focused on it.
Mhm.
So doing the cross stitch and needlework projects, they're a lot quicker. And I know that the end is in sight, so I don't have to keep my concentration and focus on them for as long. Um, and I also, since doing the stuff, I've looked into like crafters activism, and I've been really drawn to the fact that needlework is very much supposedly the woman's domain, and it's supposed to be that women would sit there in times gone by and be quiet and do their needlework and things. And I like the idea of queering that and using it for some radical aim instead.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also find that so interesting the way it kind of connects us to a long history and um, the way we can kind of update it and tap into that history and kind of bring the two things together feels really powerful.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
since you said queering it, would you be up for talking a little bit about kind of how it intersects with your own identity, how it relates to your own identity?
I think it relates more because of reigniting the passion for activism in me
Mhm.
that happened after I came out. And it was queer issues that reignited that spark into wanting to try and change things again. So yeah, if I hadn't have come out, I'm not sure that I would have got back involved in that side of things again. Um, and like I said in the blog post, just by simply being alive and being queer, we're being radical and you know mucking up the status quo. So I kind of feel like anything that I make as a queer person kind of then becomes queer. Maybe I'm giving myself far too much credit, but it kind of feels that way.
No, I totally feel that. Yeah. Yeah, I really that part of your post really resonated with me as well. That idea that like our queer identities can so deeply inflect everything we do that they can inform this sort of, I don't know, approach to activism, to politics that is really like, if we all are uplifted, then it's better for everyone. So like I'm not just going to fight for my own issues, but it's important to fight for, everyone's
Yeah,
liberation. Hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
So, other than the Kill the Bill banner that you made recently, what are some other projects that you're working on that relate to kind of important issues for you today?
So the Free Palestine
Hmm.
flag that I and Free Palestine bit that I organized, that I did organized. I didn't organize anything. So let's not give myself credit. That I designed the pattern for. Um,
Mm.
that feels really important, and I'm looking for ways with local pro-Palestinian groups to see if I can offer the pattern for a donation so that it can raise funds. Um, I am hoping once lockdown eases to look at getting people to submit embroidered patches of fabric that they feel show a part of their queer journey, their queer life, who they are, and turning it into some kind of archival quilt. Um, I say this is an idea because in my ADHD brain currently, it's really shiny and it's really exciting. But by the time it actually becomes time to be able to do it, I will probably have 6 million essays and other things that I should be doing. So it depends how much I want to do the essays as to whether this actually gets done or not. Um, but I think um, I've been very inspired by the AIDS memorial quilt,
Mhm.
and looking at that and how it's been used to kind of archive things. And I think that capturing queer history and experience in a way that is not the normal historical way, I don't like using the word normal, hegemonic
Yes.
historical way feels appropriate because
Mhm.
that's who we are anyway.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I really love that idea. I am like so here for it. And I know the feeling of like, ooh, shiny idea that may or may not ever happen. But
Yeah,
if you proceed down that path, like let us know and we will promote it and get the word out.
thank you.
Um,
Yeah, what you can't see to the side here is the big
mhm.
pile of unfinished things that
Oh
keep getting
God.
moved onto the new to-do list, but still don't seem to be getting ticked off because something else, there's a new pattern or there's a new something else that gets released that I want to make.
Literally right behind my phone is the like hand quilting stands that I bought to hand quilt a quilt that is on the stand and that I haven't touched since I put it on the stand in the winter. So I feel that. I feel that. Um, uh, yeah, yeah. I think that the thing you said about kind of like non-hegemonic modes of archiving for queer histories, um, that feels really important and that feels so I don't know. One thing that it makes me think of is the ways our queer histories from the past are often felt in like small slivers and small pieces that have been touched and relate to lived experience because we kind of lack a lot of things being written down in really
Mhm.
formalized ways that are recognized by hegemonic powers. So we seek them out and we find them in the small slivers. And I really like kind of rather than saying just, okay, now that we can write it down, let's just write it down, but instead also recognizing the real power in those things that we touched and that we made and that have that kind of intimate connection.
Yeah, and I think if people are interested in looking at queer history in a different light, there's the Bishopsgate Institute in London.
Mm-hmm.
They have their archive online, but they archive everything and anything. I watched a lecture about it yesterday, and they even have a bed
What?
as part of their archive because it was really important to this particular queer woman's history. loads of like buttons and badges, protest banners, like things that don't. So the lecture was from the National Archives, which I have been to and is very straight laced and must be quiet library type thing. So they have a lot of the official things like the court documents, police reports, that sort of thing. Whereas the Bishopsgate Institute has the stuff that's really interesting, including apparently a really, really huge collection of gay porn throughout the ages that got donated.
Amazing.
And I just think it's great that that sort of thing has been archived and it has been kept.
That's amazing. I love it. Um, I'm gonna dive into that. I love that. I feel like queer archives really do a lot of that work in a way. I won't say like no other archives do. Certainly there are other archives that are thinking about ephemera, but um, the queer archives that I've been to or that I've kind of spent time diving through their digital records, like really have had to do that work of engaging with like protest signs, with buttons, with T-shirts, because that's the stuff where we kind of brought ourselves together through the kind of proliferation of ephemera rather than of like official written documents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where um as well, like clothing and needlework and things also come in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sewing for our own bodies and how we wish to represent ourselves rather than how the world feels that we should. Um, yeah, I think that it all kind of I'm finding a way to make my degree and my crafting and love of fabric kind of merge together somehow.
Yes. Yes. I mean, as a fellow academic, I'm also like here for that. So, do you feel that's working for you? Tell me a little bit about how your degree and your interest in textiles, fabrics, fibers, and all of that is coming together.
I'd never heard about the AIDS quilt until I learned about it last semester, that
Mm-hmm.
I've just finished.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about different ways of recording history until doing my degree. So it's definitely opened up my eyes to a lot of um, things that I wasn't aware of before. I was in school during Section 28, which meant that it was against the law to talk about homosexuality in school. So even though I know that the curriculum now is sorely lacking, it was even more so when I was at school. So I feel like, you know, I'm 40 this year and I'm only just learning so much of this stuff that I think a lot of people may have already known, maybe not, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That I feel that uh, as somebody who also kind of emerged into my undergraduate and was like, oh, these things exist that nobody in my like conservative town that I grew up in wanted to tell me about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So important.
Which is why I think it's really nice to be able to do things in a different way that feels more approachable to everybody, because not everybody
Mhm,
wants to go back and study, not everyone's interested in reading, but if it's something they can see or they can touch or they can interact with
mhm,
in a different way, I think that that
mhm.
is a tool that we should use to our advantage as queer people.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I so agree with you. I think I feel that kind of textiles are really one of the really important ways we can do that because just as you said, like the garments that we wear on our body are doing some of that work. The things that we make and give to other people are doing some of that work.
Yeah, I mean, so I only came out 5 years ago, just over 5 years ago. And before that, I hadn't realized quite how cautious I was about what I did with my hair and my clothing. And I'm wearing a pair of dungarees, but I never wore dungarees when I was younger because that was a sign of being a lesbian. And I definitely wasn't one of those. You know, I didn't wear certain prints that were check because again, I associated that with being a lesbian. Um,
Mhm,
so for me, being able to explore that sort of thing now, I'm being
mhm,
true to myself, has felt really empowering. And being able to do it where I make the clothes for myself at home, and if it doesn't feel like it's me, or whatever. Nobody else knows, nobody else sees. It's just an exploration for me, rather than going into a store where I feel like someone might be looking at me thinking, why is she going to wear dungarees? Like, who would do that? Like, they're not going to suit her, sort of thing. So yeah, I like the process of making it from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, I love that point that like you're making it at home and it's like you're trying it on in kind of the privacy of your own home. You're not, it can feel so pressing to have like the eyes of the salespeople and the other folks in the store on you as you're browsing. I feel that.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's no I don't know what the situation is, but in the UK, everything is very gendered in clothing
Mhm,
stores.
mhm,
And so it's nice to be able to make something that is from whichever gender pattern the pattern world has decided that it is. And no one
yeah,
has to like be judging that. I'm sure people aren't judging, but you just sometimes that's just the way it feels that they are.
totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Um, since we've talked a little bit about your needlework, let's talk a little bit about your garment sewing. How long have you been sewing your own clothes? What do you like to make the best?
I like making pants the best because
Mhm.
they're really quick and easy to make, and I can make them in the most fun colors and patterns. I'm not sure if my internet is going, so sorry if it is.
Oh,
Am I
I
still
think you're
here?
back now. It
Okay.
was spotty
Um,
there, but
yeah, I like making pants in really bright colors, and that
mhm,
actually fit nicely.
mhm,
Like ready to wear
mhm.
underwear is I don't know what body shape it's made for, but it's certainly not mine. So I quite like being able to make my own. And also I don't always want to wear underwear that is necessarily the quote unquote female sexy underwear, but I still like it to match. So
Mm,
I've quite enjoyed being able to make a matching sports bra and pants. So I still feel like I'm matching, but it's not in like some red sequin lace that is made for straight men to admire. Um,
mhm.
so yeah, pants, and also pants are quick to make. So
Yes.
again, I can make them all in one day. It's not something that I have to kind of go back to and remember that I haven't finished it just yet.
I very much feel you on the matching sets. There's just something like so charming about a matched set.
Yeah,
And like when it's like in a bright color or like a fun print, even better.
yeah, definitely. So I've only been sewing clothes for maybe about 2 years. I was inspired by a program called the Sewing Bee, um,
Oh yeah.
and watching that and thinking, my mum bought me a sewing machine like ages ago, which I gave back to her because I wasn't using. Maybe I should see whether I could have it back and give that a go. Um, and my mum is very happy because my mum has been waiting for me to start sewing with a machine like she does and like have that in common. It's also very handy because where my mum has been quilting and sewing for so long, her stash is huge. And if I need something before I go to a shop, I like text her like I've decided I want to try shearing on a top.
Mhm.
And I thought, do I want
Oh,
to spend out a load of money on shearing elastic? And I was like, Mum, have you got any shearing elastic? And she's like, yep, I'll bring it around tomorrow. So that is incredibly handy, especially being a student.
yeah, that's amazing. The fabric store at mom's house.
Yes. Well, it means that then she's got less in her stash. So it means that she can then go out and buy more. So it's a win-win.
Win-win. Everybody wins. I love it. That's amazing. With garment sewing, are there like um dream projects that you would like really love to tackle someday?
Yeah. So I have the fabric already for it. But I really want to make myself, I've got a check fabric that I want to make myself a waistcoat and
Mhm.
trousers, and then a slightly sheer white fabric to make a shirt. And
Ooh.
waistcoats are something that are really difficult because I don't want, I'm quite tall as well. I'm like
Mhm.
5'9". Um, and so women's waistcoats are too short. They sit above my hips and they come
Mhm.
in. Men's waistcoats don't, even though I'm quite small chested, they don't do up around the chest. So the idea that I can make one that's actually to my measurements
Hmm.
is quite exciting. So the idea is to make myself a full outfit that I can then, when everything opens up again, I can go out and feel very queer and good about myself.
I love that. I love that. What color is the fabric for the waistcoat?
So it's black, white, and grey check. So it's quite
Ooh,
classic.
yeah, yeah, I
Um,
love that.
yeah.
I also
So
feel
we'll
like
see.
I hope it happens for you.
Yeah,
Um,
so do I.
Waistcoats are like one of the most common questions we get in the SewQueer community because they're like, there's not enough patterns for them out there right now. And I don't know if it's just that they like in like mainstream fashion are very like cyclical and when they're trendy and they're like maybe just not trendy right now. But this is like my plea and my call to pattern designers is to like please make us some like decent waistcoat patterns that we can like adapt for our bodies in good and affirming ways and that don't like look like the like late 90s ones that you can sometimes get that are like the cropped tiny ones. Like we don't want those.
Yeah. No, 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 no.
No, please don't
Um,
give us sense.
I did see someone on that a page of mine had shared that's non-binary and wears a lot of waistcoats, and they have recommended a pattern. So if I do make from that pattern, I will be sure to submit a review and tag hashtag SewQueer in it so that you can see it if it works.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing that if and when it happens.
Yeah, it will because it's there and it will be used. It's just when.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Maybe that is a segue into talking even a little bit more about ADHD and sewing, because some of the things we've been chatting about already feel like deeply familiar to me as well. Um, and I'm wondering if you would be up for talking a little bit about maybe some of the challenges it presents and also some of the ways sewing and needlework kind of help with um, uh, your experience of ADHD.
Yeah, so I only got diagnosed last summer. And like I said, I'm 40 this year, so it's quite a late diagnosis. Um, and it's made a lot of things make a lot more sense. And I'm trying to process all those times that I beat myself up, and I'm now coming to realize that actually my brain works differently. And that's
Yeah.
probably why I processed and handled situations in the way that I did. Um,
Mhm.
and especially with the holding attention to things. And like I've always been someone that picks up projects and gets all the stuff and makes it and then ends up with a load of craft supplies. I mean, I've got so many craft supplies from other crafts. Sorry, my phone holder is now coming off the window. Sorry.
That's okay.
We'll try and balance it there instead. Oh, I'm going to go a bit. Hang on. I'm going to be a little bit wonky, but I'll sit like that. And then this is just, I think this is actually quite timely. This is how my head is. My head is wonky. Like I feel like my brain is wonky a lot of the time. Anyway, um, yeah. So I think needlework is something that is quite inexpensive or can be inexpensive to do because you can use any scraps of fabric that you've got. Um, skeins of thread are not that expensive. I went into my local charity shop and managed to buy a bag of, I think I counted, I think I got to about 30 threads for £5. I don't know what that is in dollars, but um, and so if this does become a phase that I then decide I'm not as into anymore, I haven't put as much financial investment into it. Um, but also not be, I think now I'm becoming aware that whereas I've felt very guilty about that before, that I'm now becoming aware that actually this is the way that my mind works. This is how I get my dopamine, and that this is probably the way that life is going to be, and that it's okay. I still feel guilt about it, but I'm slowly processing, trying not to.
Mhm. Mhm. I so feel everything you said. I also was only diagnosed fairly recently. I'm 34, and it like um, was a real like light bulb moment of like, oh, that's why this thing happens in my brain. That's why I do this thing this way.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, yeah.
It's and
And
do you find that you
oh,
though walk I find that I walk a tightrope between not wanting to use it as an excuse, but finding it very helpful to have it as a reason.
mhm,
And therefore
mhm,
trying to walk that line between people thinking I'm just using it as an excuse to actually me saying, no, this is a way to understand me and how I
mhm,
work, and this is the reason
mhm.
behind it, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that it can be, um, I think one of the challenges that I'm finding is that like a lot of the things associated with behaviors from ADHD are so stigmatized, as you said. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this idea that like people it's associated with like laziness or like not caring or like being self-centered or like all these different like really
Yeah,
harsh things.
yeah,
um so yeah, sometimes I can feel like, oh, I promise I'm not lazy, but like also like what does laziness actually mean, and like why is that a thing that we are being so cruel towards? Why are
yeah.
we privileging like busyness so much? Yeah, yeah, it's a tightrope for sure.
And I think that became really evident like during the pandemic, where
Mhm,
everybody was like finding time to be busy and do new
mhm,
things, and
mhm.
I was not always even like remembering to brush my teeth
Yeah.
or to like
Mhm,
put my clothes away.
mhm,
So I think needlework for me, although it's kind of still playing into the thing of being productive, has
mhm,
made me feel like I'm doing something, but there's no pressure on me doing it, and I'm enjoying it.
yeah.
So for me, that's been nice.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I totally feel that. There's like especially if you don't have, you haven't put yourself into having any deadlines or things like that. It's just like we're making something like one stitch at a time. It's not, you can't go
Yeah,
that fast with needlework. Like it's
no,
not a
that
it's not a
that's the only
speed.
thing that's frustrating me is when I have procrastinated
Mm.
over something that I'm going to do as a gift.
Oh gosh, yes.
It's like you literally you can't stitch any faster. Like when you're making something with a machine, there are ways to make it go a bit faster, to take shortcuts. When every
Mhm,
stitch is important and counts in needlework, you
mhm,
can't skip any.
mhm.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I think my plan is to kind of throughout the year make things that I know people will like, and then I have
Mhm,
things there ready to gift or
mhm.
use in whatever way.
Yeah, and then you're not doing like all in a rush right before someone's birthday or a holiday or something.
Yeah, or using it as an excuse not to complete a deadline for an essay.
Mhm. Yep, also been there. I'm on the other side now because I'm a professor, so now I use it to procrastinate grading the essays that I have
Yeah,
assigned to people. Also bad.
yeah.
So
When I start cleaning the house, my partner knows that I've got something that I'm supposed to be doing, because I don't normally get motivated to do that sort of thing. So she is aware that I'm probably putting something else off.
oh wow, that's so familiar. All right, so question. How many, or would you be up for naming the different crafts that you've picked up and have supplies for now? Because I have a ton also, and my like feeling on it today is that even if I'm not going to ever like dive right back into rubber stamps or macrame or et cetera, I've got the supplies, and next, whenever I make a project that needs like one piece of that, I've got something I can pull from. So that's the way I'm trying to mentally approach it now. So how about you?
Yeah,
What
so
things have you picked up before?
crochet, card
Mm-hmm,
baking, scrapbooking,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um, decoupage.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I used to run decoupage parties for kids for their birthdays. Um, what else
Fun.
have I done? I used to bind books and make the
Ooh.
covers myself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's probably, I've tried knitting, but
Mhm.
I am left-handed, so I'm not very coordinated. So I'm better with just one hook than I am with two needles, which is annoying because knitting uses yet less yarn, so it would be cheaper to do. Um, but the thing that I found really helpful for me personally, being a parent, means that if my kids are teenagers now, but when they were younger, I used to live in a small village, and the kids just used to like come in and sit down at the dining table and knew where the cupboard was with the craft stuff and just like get creative. And my daughter asked to try crochet, and because I haven't got rid of anything, I had the hooks and the wool, and it meant that they could, start trying it out straight away. Um,
Mhm.
and also, if I am trying to make something needlework for someone and I've left it to the last minute, I know that I've got other crafts that will be
Mhm.
quicker that I can pick up and do. Um, Macrame is on my list though to try.
I did
But
the
but
thing.
but
Oh, I was just gonna say I did the thing where I
no,
dove into
go.
it because I wanted like one big project, and so I like my first, well, my second project was like a giant wall hanging, which is like maybe not the way most people would do that, but that's the way I did it.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of all the plant hangers and things, but needlework is still shinier at the moment, so
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not. I haven't delved into buying supplies for
Yeah.
that. Um, I don't know if it's like crafty, but I've really got into gardening this year as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we've got just a concrete yard in the back, but I've filled it with planters, growing my own veg and
Mhm.
fruit and things, and I've really enjoyed that process, which is still creative in a way, I think. Still
Nice.
creating something.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah. I I'm looking at my macrame rope, which is also behind my phone, that I do need to pick up because I've promised my sister a plant holder, and I'm seeing her in a couple weeks. So guess I better do that pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, now lockdown's easing, there's no excuses now. We have
I
to like
know,
see
I
people
know,
and do things and fulfill those promises.
right? Like this is her Christmas present, and I guess I should give it to her. That seems like a thing she would like.
Yeah.
Oh. So I've asked a lot of questions. Are there other things that you really wanted to share with the SewQueer community or wanted to talk about?
I think we've covered like so much that I don't
Mhm.
think we really left any stone unturned in that
Fair.
respect. Um, yeah, I think that we have, it feels like, yeah, we've kind of gone in and out of different things and stuff. So, yeah, if anyone has a waistcoat pattern that's tried and tested and they
Mhm.
know is good, that can be hacked in any way, even to make it
Mhm.
less gendered,
Mhm.
then yeah, please share that because I would be very grateful. It might actually give me a kick up the backside to make it.
Absolutely. If you are watching this not on live in the future, put it in the comments, please. We would love
Yes,
that.
please.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been so lovely to chat with you. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Good.
So
I'm
that's good.
glad.
And
This
my
is
children
also,
haven't
as I
come in
said,
to embarrass me, which is another
no, no,
advantage. That
there's
I was
no,
slightly worried that my children would do that, but they've been very well behaved.
no embarrassment here. I'm so glad. As I said, this is kind of um, a new thing for us as well. So this was a lovely way to kick it off. And thank you so much for your posts and for your takeover posts. They've been really wonderful to have this week. So
You're so
if you
welcome.
haven't gone and read the post on our blog, the link is in our bio. Um, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much to all of you at SewQueer for giving me the opportunity as well.
Of course, of course. We really enjoyed having you. So, and I'm going to put this up on our page and it'll go up on our YouTube where it will have captions. So, if
Perfect.
for folks who need that, I think that's an important thing that Instagram does not provide. So, we have to do it another
Yes,
way. Yeah.
absolutely.
All right.
Right.
Well, have a
Thank you
good
very much.
evening. I think it's evening there now. So,
It is. It
um,
is. Yep.
and a good rest of your weekend. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.